Thank you, and hi everybody. I, me, and mine, who I am, and I guess when we talk about data mining, it's not necessarily to talk about big data, but we need to stress some information of what we mean by data mining. In data mining, the way in which we search is different from what we are used to do. We don't search, we don't start from an hypothesis, but this data mining process search for hypotheses. That is correlation among subset of data, and those correlations are somehow summarized in what is called a pattern. And a pattern is basically a statement which is a sort of summary of all the instances that led to a sort of conclusion. Then a model is created, and we are basically fitted to the model. So a law professor giving a talk, normally, statistically, wears a tie, and it's not dressed this way. So I'm not fitting the model. The key point here is that the pattern is not truthful across all the data. So I might not fit the pattern, sorry. So I live in a networked society. So we live basically immersed in a number of connections. All our data are, we produce data, data are produced on us, data are referred on us. So the pattern which is created on a number of other individuals, a number of data, maybe not personal identification information, are referred to us. Law professor, therefore, a tie. So we don't talk about big data. We moved to an interconnection in which basically all flows of information are continuously reshaped, put together, the pattern is changed, we are fit and refit in the pattern, and they are continuously changing. We are even, to a large extent, forced to be permanently connected. Think about the switch to clouds. Services, products, basically don't allow almost at all to have offline alternatives. And in a sense, this is a way in which the dynamic of our economy has been moving and transforming basically us in permanently connected people. When I talk about permanently connected, I'm not talking about only being interconnected with the internet. I mean that all our transactions, all our interrelations are mostly computer mediated. So even what we do in our real life, in the physical life, it's computer mediated. Think about a credit card transaction as an example, and think about what we basically do moving around through all the devices we are using. And all this process is basically enabling what, borrowing from geography, we can call remote sensing. So without even perceiving it, data on us are produced, are inferred, and referred. We give up data continuously, and there is a permanent interconnection. The results is basically that we are assuming that we give up data. We don't even perceive that data are generated on us without our contributing to those data. Think about behavioral patterns, which are spotted when we are searching the web. So we reached a point in which the economy has been named by Al Gore the Stalker Economy. Basically, it's a situation in which businesses and governments, but mostly businesses, know about us much more than we do know. That is, from big data analysis, patterns are extracted that actually classify us according to subsets of data. Data which we might not be even aware. I'm not aware that I'm moving in a certain way in my hands, but the pattern can spot it and act accordingly. I prefer to talk in terms of the classifying society. What is the classifying society? Is basically that our environment, our decision-making environment, is permanently shaped and reshaped by these flows of information. To think in clear terms, all our searches on web are just not objective searches, but are personalized results. So we do a search, and the results I am getting or you are getting are different because they are personalized according to what the algorithm, the pattern, believes that it's more suitable for me or for you. So our contextual decision-making environment is continuously changed and altered in this change. So classify normally meant to arrange in category, and Google has clearly changed it, and it's just an example in classify arranging people or things. Never before was used for people, the terms classify, in categories according to shared qualities or characteristics. And these shared qualities or characteristics which are gathered, which are inferred, may not entirely correspond to what we think we are, and sometimes they even take priority. And in the classifying society, something more tricky, if you want, is happening. We are used to more stable and less dynamic classification. White man, white woman, black woman. And over time, we have spotted that some of them were too discriminatory, so they were not acceptable in legal or ethical terms. It took a number of years. What we are living now is something different, in which the pigeonholing is more transient. So for a number of reasons, we are pigeonholed in a number of clusters according to a number of data points. Results, we don't even know why a purple-haired woman would be in a specific cluster, getting a specific context in real and digital life. And this is all changing, continuously adapting. We have just heard about the machine learning and all those beautiful technologies advances, up to the point that we don't actually know, and it's not clearly readable, what are the set of facts, the data, which gathered together lead to a pattern, a statement, which is used as a knowledge, that is to act. And the action is actually surrounding us. Think about personalized advertising, think about the search, and things similar to that. So we are now living in a world in which the pigeonholing, the classification are more dynamic, continuously change, and transient. After 5 minutes or a few seconds, we can be pigeonholed in different ways according to different criteria. And those data that pigeonhole may not even be strictly related, as we shall see, to us at all. So, I think this basically tells us much more than a long talk. We react to context, we react to stimulus, and a number of you began to laugh or smile just watching this movie, an abstract from a commercial. So this switch from more transient, dynamic, mostly unnoticed, not visible classifications that reshape our decision-making context are somehow switching to more nudged life, in which our right to be divergent, if you want, to react differently from what the pattern is suggesting you should do, wearing a tie, it's becoming more and more problematic. Of course, we are used to systems in which we are somehow coerced, forced to behave in a certain ways, but we are moving away from that, and we are now moving in a completely different environment in which the shape of the information, the contextual decision-making is continually personalized on us, and it's changing. So we switched from just a reshaping of the amount, the quality, quantity kind of information we have, or at least we are thinking we have, to what is suggestion. It's presented as personalization of services. Those are the suggestions, but we should maybe begin to wonder whether we actually correspond to what this continuous pattern is suggesting to us. So whether or not we know all of people or we don't know any of them. The system, and this system continuous interaction is a service, allows you to interact with your friends. Yet, the point is, who are my friends? This is friends for Facebook, but these are subset of friends for you, and you might do not want to mix your family with college friends, with Sant'Anna friends, and some of them not even your friends, but still the system is suggesting you that those people should be your friends. So the impact also in social life is becoming to be a little bit more complex and complicated. So this has been with us for a number of years with a lot of impacts with scoring and other implications. What we are now looking at is something different. Once it is not necessary anymore to identify you as, hi, who you are, Giovanni Comandé, and it's more and more possible to target individuals, or better way to target devices used, or even better, groups of data points of information, things begin to change. And all the data which are referred to us may be somehow misleading. Let me give you a maybe hilarious example. Think about an individual that for personal reasons, for work or any other reason, is somehow forced at regular times to go through an area where pickup of prostitutes is going on. And there is traffic, stop and go. And this process of stopping and go, it's gathered from the devices, mobile phone, tablets, computer, that brings with him. It's not interconnected, it's not connected to internet, but those devices are geolocated, temporal and spatially dimensionally located, and their movement is tracked, stop and go. And it is clearly a pattern which is compatible with picking up prostitute. What actually then is the result is that one of those devices, once it is connected, the information about those devices, those movements, are related to a pattern. Result, not the individual, but the set of devices which have been experiencing that stop and go at regular timing are considered sex addicts or interested in drugs in specific directions and dimension. Well, clearly, we don't need to identify and connect the device with an individual. So, for instance, the car or the notebook or the tablet with me or with a specific gender, because in the Internet of Things, a pink cover can signal that most probably that individual is female, not male, therefore making a difference in the pattern, so not picking up prostitute. That would be the pattern, not always true, and changing the results. And of course, the individual with a pink cover who is not picking up a prostitute might end up with a wrong inference, of course, and a wrong suggestion, which, of course, makes us laughing and makes us thinking about, well, this is not really happening. And we do know that it's actually happening already. It's already happening because, for instance, cross-matching for devices, it's a huge market in which basically devices are linked either because you are connected with your unique identifier, with your many unique identifiers. You are connected with your Apple ID, with your Google ID, or whatever other ID you are connected, or because your device, which is a bundle of other devices with unique identifiers. For instance, the MAC address can be probabilistically related with each other. And this is something continuously happening. There is plenty of companies which make large profits just matching offline and online identities through probabilistic matching that, trust me, works very, very, very well. Now, we moved from I am Giovanni Comandé, but I am supposed to wear a tie. I'm not wearing a tie, but the inference on me is that I should wear a tie. And we reached a point in which basically it's not anymore me targeted. It is some devices, some objects, which doesn't really matter whether or not they are related to me. So we are a step ahead, even beyond the idea of data protection. So the frontiers between my data, the data inferred on me, and the data of the things which somehow are surrounding me are once again fading away and blurring. And it's much, much, much easier and effective to target devices which are matched among themselves, because it's much more accurate than targeting me. Think about the different objects in the daily life between 9:30 and 5:30, and finally the fitting model that those devices create is that you are a professional female aged 42. And then times pass along, the day goes over, and we have a different moment in time, a different connection or a different spatial location of those devices, and clearly some devices come in, some other devices come out, and another fitting model tends to be applied. And at that fitting model, in that fitting model, you are a child, male, aged 8, just because maybe your son is using at that regular time your iPad or your computer. And therefore, it's a specific target. Therefore, the search ranking will be tailored for a child, male, aged 8, not a female, aged 42. The results, the suggestions, the results in the search, the banners, the commercials, the filters, and so on and so forth. These are just examples, but if we move along during the day, you might realize at a certain point the fitting model is not anymore fitting 42, but it's a teenager aged 15, right? And if you begin to think about, and for instance, this happens only on Wednesday and on every other week, during weekdays, on every other week, you can easily think without being a smart algorithm that most probably you have a shared custody of the child. So at that point, another pattern applies. The child is with mommy or with daddy, and therefore we could somehow manipulate the environment knowing that the 8-year-old child is with the father or with the mother to contextualize even more, personalizing his decision-making environment and interfering with the decision-making environment of the adult, which is present at the same time. Of course, times pass along, and at a certain moment in time, the fitting model is telling to you that you are who you are. And then at the very end of the day, you realize that you are your wife. It doesn't really make a difference whether or not you are your wife if the system is contextualizing all your decision-making environment in that direction. So we reached, I guess, and I hope, the frontiers we wanted to reach. So in the classifying society, in this way, the way in which our economy is being shaped, thanks to technology, is doing marvelous things. I'm not saying that all this is wrong, but I'm trying to stress one point. That is, we are in a moment in time, a moment in the development of the economy and technology in which our real-life identities are becoming less important, if you want, to a large extent, even irrelevant. And this irrelevance is strictly related to the fact that all the products and services we receive are contributing to shape our environment, and a specific environment, our decision-making environment. So we are at the point in which we have to decide whether or not it is legally permissible or ethically acceptable, and to what extent withdrawal of information. So the ranking, the results which have been taken away from your search, to what extent this is something we do want, and to what extent withdrawing information, reducing, filtering information or results or possibilities or alternatives or suggestions somehow is reaching a point in which is too much altering, predefining our decision-making context. It's how to draw the border between the marvelous results of taking away all the noise in the search, to remain in the example, and to not receive any further information on that. Well, almost 25 years ago, or even more, there was this picture in a paper. And the idea was, on the internet, nobody knows you are a dog. Well, with hindsight, we might begin to think that certainly on internet, nobody knows you are a dog. But it might be relevant if you are treated like a dog, despite the fact you might be the owner, or you might not be the owner, of a specific kind of dog. And this might be relevant if your decision-making context is shaped by that. Well, I think these are frontiers worth to be explored. Thank you.